In 1974, in a forest in Tanzania, a group of chimpanzees split into two factions. What followed over the next 4 years wasn't random violence. It was a systematic campaign of targeted killing, raiding parties, ambushes, border patrols. One by one, every male in the smaller group was hunted down and killed. The females were taken. The territory was absorbed. By 1978, one group had been completely wiped out. Scientists called it the Gombe Chimpanzee War, and when Jane Goodall, who had spent years studying these animals, watched it happen, she said it was one of the most disturbing things she had ever witnessed. Not because it was violent, because it was so familiar. Here's a fact that sounds made up. Number 2. Leafcutter ants. Ants have been fighting wars for over 100 million years. Before dinosaurs went extinct, before the first flower bloomed, ants were already organized, strategic, and lethal. There is a species called the leafcutter ant. A single leafcutter colony can contain up to 8 million individuals. They have a caste system: workers, soldiers, a queen. They farm fungus. They have waste management systems. Their colonies are so complex that some biologists only half-jokingly call them superorganisms. Not a group of individuals, but a single entity spread across millions of bodies. And they go to war with the precision of an army. When a leafcutter colony detects a threat from a rival colony, they don't send everyone. They send soldiers first. Scouts have already mapped the enemy's foraging trails. The attack comes from multiple directions simultaneously. Soldiers clamp onto enemies with jaws strong enough to slice through human skin and simply refuse to let go, even in death. Researchers have found battlefields, and that's the actual word scientists use, where the dead number in the thousands spread across a patch of forest floor. But the most disturbing ant warriors aren't the leafcutters. Number 3. Polyergus ants. There's a species called the slave-making ant, Polyergus. What they do has no comfortable parallel in the animal kingdom. Polyergus colonies cannot feed themselves. Their soldiers' jaws are shaped only for fighting, not for carrying food or caring for larvae. So they raid other ant colonies, not to kill everyone, to steal the pupae, the eggs, just before they hatch. They carry them back to their own colony. When those pupae hatch, they imprint on the Polyergus colony as home, and they spend the rest of their lives doing all the labor the warriors cannot: foraging, feeding, cleaning, nursing. The raiding parties that steal them are coordinated, fast, and organized. If the host colony resists, the Polyergus soldiers release a chemical signal that sends the defenders into chaos. Then they take what they came for and leave. A species that wages war not to kill, but to enslave. And they've been doing it for millions of years. Number 4. Bottlenose dolphins. Most people think of dolphins as gentle, and they are often. But male bottlenose dolphins form alliances that operate with a level of political complexity that has genuinely surprised researchers. Off the coast of Western Australia, in Shark Bay, scientists have been observing a dolphin population for over 30 years. What they found rewrote what we thought we knew about animal social behavior. Male dolphins there form alliances in layers. First-order alliances, pairs or trios of males who cooperate closely. Second-order alliances, groups of these pairs who team up against other groups. Third-order alliances, even larger coalitions that form to counter rival super-alliances. 3 levels of political alliance in dolphins, and these alliances fight. When rival male groups compete for females, the confrontations are organized. One group will corral a female, keeping her from escaping, while the other group forms a defensive perimeter. If a rival alliance challenges them, they signal each other with synchronized movements and sounds that function like military formations. Sides charge, sides retreat, flanking maneuvers happen. Researchers have watched these confrontations and used the same language they'd use describing human military encounters, because no other language fits. What's stranger still is that these alliances are not fixed. They shift. A third-order coalition might support one group today and switch sides next season based on what's strategically advantageous. Dolphins are not just fighting. They are calculating, choosing sides, betraying allies, forming new ones, running the same basic political calculus that has driven human conflict for all of recorded history. Number 5. Wolves. Yellowstone National Park, 1995. Wolves had been absent from the park for 70 years, hunted to local extinction. The National Park Service reintroduced them. What happened over the next 2 decades became one of the most studied examples of ecological change in scientific history. But inside that story is another one, about war between packs. Wolf packs hold territory. They mark it with scent, they patrol the borders, and they defend it with lethal force. When two rival packs meet at a border, what happens depends on numbers, strength, and something that looks a lot like calculated risk assessment. If one pack has a clear size advantage, the smaller group retreats. If the numbers are close, they fight. The Druid Peak Pack, at its height one of the largest packs ever recorded in Yellowstone, conducted what researchers described as territorial campaigns. Systematic expansion, targeted pressure on weaker neighboring packs. When the Druids encountered rival packs, they didn't just chase them off. They pursued, cornered, killed, then held the new territory. When the Druid pack was eventually weakened by disease and rival pressure, other packs moved in immediately. Within one season, territory that had belonged to the Druids for years was parceled out among rivals who had clearly been waiting. Waiting, as in tracking the decline of a rival. Assessing weakness, choosing the right moment. That's not instinct, that's strategy. Here's where the story turns. For most of human history, we told ourselves a comfortable story. War was our invention. Violence at scale, organized and purposeful, was the dark gift of our intelligence. It was the price of civilization. Other animals killed out of hunger, fear, instinct. Only we killed for power, for territory, for ideology. That story is wrong. What the Gombe chimps did in 1974 was not random. It was organized, sustained over years, and resulted in territorial conquest. What polyergus ants do every summer is not instinct in any simple sense. It requires scouting, chemical warfare, coordinated raiding, and the ability to exploit another species' hardwired behavior. What dolphins in Shark Bay do is political. Multi-layered, shifting, strategic political alliance formation that would look familiar in any human government. The question scientists have been wrestling with is not whether animals make war. They clearly do. The question is what that means for us. One interpretation is comforting. War is just biology. If ants and chimps and dolphins do it, then it's natural, inevitable, built into the code of social creatures. Maybe we shouldn't feel too bad about it, but there's another interpretation, and it's harder. If organized strategic violence is not unique to humans, then it did not come with our intelligence. It came before our intelligence. We didn't invent war. We inherited it from something much older than civilization, something much older than language, something that was already running raids and holding borders and calculating the right moment to strike before the first human ever drew a map or raised a flag. We like to think our wars are about something, ideas, justice, resources, and sometimes they are. But underneath all the ideology and the history and the justifications, there may just be the same program that sent a patrol of chimpanzees moving in silence through a Tanzanian forest 50 years ago. The same program that drives a polyergus scout into enemy territory to count the defenders. The same program that makes a wolf pack wait just past the border for the right moment. We dressed it up. We gave it names. We wrote it into treaties and national anthems and history books, but we did not create it. In 2010, researchers went back to Gombe to review Jane Goodall's original footage from the war. They wanted to see if they had missed anything, if there were signs in the behavior before the killing started. Things that, knowing what came next, looked different. They found them. Months before the first attack, the Kasakala males had begun moving in groups more often. Their border patrols had increased in frequency. Their interactions with Kahama males had become colder, more tense. The social warmth that had once existed between the two groups, they had been one community once, had quietly drained away before a single blow was struck. The war didn't start in 1974. It started earlier, in the slow withdrawal of recognition, in the shift from seeing the other group as neighbors to seeing them as something else, something outside the circle. That part, at least, is very human.